Hello everyone, myself Vikas Kumar and I'm studying in Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering, third semester Information Science, and this video we will talk about creating exception subclasses and chained exceptions. Creating exception subclasses. Creating your own exception subclasses and implementing chained exceptions in Java allows developers to build more robust and informative error handling mechanism. This practice enhances code readability, promotes modularity, and aids debugging. Exception handling in Java revolves around the concept of exceptions, which are unexpected events that disrupt the normal flow of program execution. While Java provides a set of built-in exceptions, developers often need to create a custom exceptions that are specific to their application. To create a custom exception, you define a new class that extends either exception or one of its subclasses like runtime exception. This new class becomes a custom exception type. For instance, public class custom exception extends exception. Constructs and additional methods can be added. Public custom exceptions, string message, super message. Here, a custom exception is a simple example of custom exception. It inherits the basic functionality of the exception class and allows developers to add specific details about exception such as custom error message or additional attributes. Using custom exception subclasses. Once you define your custom exception, you can use it in your code by throwing instances of when it is necessary. For example, public class example, open bracket, public static void main string agrs. Try some code that you may throw the custom exception. Throw new custom exception. This is a custom exception. Catch custom exception, system out println caught custom exception plus ce get message. In this example, the custom exception is thrown within a try block and it is caught by a corresponding catch block. This structure allows you to gracefully handle exceptions specific to your application. Chain exception. Chain exceptions, introduced in Java 1.4, provide a mechanism for multiple exceptions together. This feature is beneficial when exception triggers another, allowing developers to trace the root cause of error more effectively. To implement chained exception, you use the int cause throwable cause method. For example, public class change exception example, public static void string agrs. Try some code that may throw the initial exception, throw a new IO exception, initial exception, catch IO initial exception. Wrap the initial exception in custom exception. Custom exception is equals to new custom exception, comma, int exception. Here IO exception is caught and then a custom exception is created with the initial exception set as its cause. This allows developer to preserve the context and information of the original exception while providing higher level abstraction. Benefits of creating exception subclasses and change exception. First, code modularity. Custom exception classes make code more modular by encapsulating error handling logic within specific classes. This enhances code readability and maintainability. Application specific information. Custom exceptions allow developers to include application specific information about errors, making it easier to identify and address issues. Chained exception for traceability. Chained exception enables the creation of chain of exceptions, providing a detailed trace of errors origin. This aids debugging and understanding the sequence of events leading to an issue. Numerous real-life applications across various domains. Financial system. Custom exceptions. In banking applications, a transaction failed exception could be custom exception. It might include details such as reason for failure or insufficient fund. Chained exception. If a transaction fails due to a lower level network issue, a chained exception could link the transaction failed exception to lower level network exception. E-commerce platforms. Custom exception. A e-commerce application may define the product not found exception to handle cases where a user tries to access a non-existent product. Chained exception. This exception might be changed to underlying database exception if the failure is related to data retrieval from a product database. Healthcare systems. Custom exception. In medical records, a system of a patient not found exception could be thrown when attempting to retrieve information about a patient who doesn't exist. Chained exception. This exception might be changed to security exception if the access to the patient records is unauthorized. IoT devices. Custom exception. In IoT systems, a device connected exception could be created to handle issues when a device fails to connect. Changed exceptions. This might be linked to the next network exception if the failure is due to the problems with device network connection. File processing applications. Custom exception. A file processing application may have file read exception for cases where reading a file fails. Chained exception. This exception could be changed to IO exception if the failure is due to a general input or output issues. Web development. Custom exception. In web application, a user registration exception might be created to handle errors due to user registration process. Chained exception. This could be linked to the database exception if there are problems storing user information in database. In conclusion, creating a custom exception subclasses and implementing chained exception in Java empowers developers to build more robust and informative exception handling mechanism tailored to applications needs. The practice enhances code quality, facility debugging, and contributes to more resilient software design. Thank you.